Welcome to Empower Her Radio, the space for powerhouse women ready to step into their next level of abundance, purpose, and personal freedom. I'm Dr. Corey Winn, a high performance coach, doctor of physical therapy, philanthropist, and business consultant. I help ambitious women align with their highest calling, expand their wealth and impact, and create a life that feels as good as it looks. If you're a high achieving woman who's built success yet finds yourself craving more alignment, more purpose, more ease, you're in the right place. Here, we bridge the gap between ambition and fulfillment. Through transformative conversations and proven strategies, you'll gain the courage to step into the fullest expression of you. Build a powerhouse business that aligns with your expertise and divine gifts, and lead your life, both personally and professionally, with unshakable confidence, worthiness, and compassion. This is about expansion, legacy, and owning your power unapologetically. You already have everything inside of you to create a life of unlimited possibility. It's time to unlock it. Welcome to your next level. Let's dive in. Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited today to have Ann Hince here. Ann is a former software engineer turned transformation coach who helps determined individuals release stored trauma, embrace emotional healing, and rediscover profound inner peace. Her story is one of resilience, personal transformation, and deep healing, both emotionally and physically. What makes Ann's journey so powerful is that she didn't just change her mindset, her body literally changed. By releasing deep emotional burdens, she experienced physical growth, her bones realigned, and she gained a new sense of freedom. Today, we're diving into how trauma is stored in the body, how releasing it can lead to profound life changes, and how you too can begin your journey to deep healing and empowerment. Welcome to the show, Ann.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
So I know just with that introduction, people are wondering, tell me all the things. So give us a little bit of background. Tell us how you ended up where you are.
Okay, there's a lot of things that I can share. But right now I'm at the place where I've got almost what I call them superpowers because other people started to call them superpowers. So I can put my awareness inside my head, inside my bones, and release tension deep inside. But when I started the journey, I had no idea that that was possible.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so I had to go through these different steps along the way to develop my self-awareness this deeply. And
Right.
it just started because I was so emotional. I had PTSD. My dad had anger problems. I'd been through multiple good sized traumas in childhood and lots of smaller ones. So I was really emotional and reactionary. And at the time, I was in my late 30s and I had two young boys at home.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just too much. I was always overwhelmed with so
Right.
much going on, and I hadn't realized that I was holding so much in still. So I started my journey back in my 30s, which was 20 years ago now.
Mm-hmm. What kind of gave you the insight that what you were going through was due to past trauma? I think if I clarify that a little bit, a lot of us may not even recognize what we're going through, how we're reacting, how we're feeling is because of trauma. So what do you tell people
Well, I
to kind
didn't
of
either.
get them,
I
get them
had
in
no
the
idea.
idea? Yeah.
So, but I had to go through something, and I think a lot of us do. So, it was a business altercation with two other mothers at my boys' school. And they told me, now these two women were not like me. They were self confident, self assured, authority type women in my mind.
Uh-huh.
And I was the scared mother on the inside. And they told
Uh-huh.
me I'd done something wrong. And
Oh,
my mind just spun out of control. I could not stop that monkey mind just going over all those thoughts. So, like, I said this and they said that, and I did this, but I could have done this differently, just all those different
right.
permutations. And it
Mm-hmm.
was 3 days of that. And I realized at the end, okay, this is not normal. Most
Uh-huh.
people I know would not react this intensely to something that really wasn't much of a big deal. But I also realized it felt a little bit like how I reacted when my dad told me I'd done something wrong, right? He was my authority figure,
Right.
told me I'd
Right.
done something wrong, and then I just couldn't stop my mind spinning. So it was that realization that it was felt a little bit like how my dad how I reacted when my dad did something that made me realize, oh, maybe there's something else from my childhood or
Mhm.
something from my childhood that I should look at,
Mhm.
which is really interesting to look back on, because at the time I thought, okay, so maybe I just need to deal with his, the way he treated me, his alcoholism and that. But there was so much more. I just wasn't aware of it at that point. And that's the whole point. As we do this work, we become aware of things that are held deeper and deeper inside.
Yes. Well, and so often we, it takes that curiosity and that first thought of, this doesn't feel normal. I don't feel like I am reacting maybe the way that I would. And working with clients, as I'm sure you do, is just creating that space to be curious and reflect and think about, why is this? So, thinking about that trauma and thinking about other high achieving women, what do you kind of help your clients with to kind of check in when they're all going, and checking off the list and moving on to the next thing and not recognizing that maybe they are spinning?
Right. And it's always working out how you're feeling in the moment. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how I started my journey. I would ask myself multiple times during the day, how am I feeling right now?
Mm-hmm.
Because we often try and suppress it, or we push past it or whatever, but it's just energy that's stuck in the body, and it
Mm-hmm.
needs to be noticed and acknowledged and felt. And
Mm-hmm.
once it's had enough attention given to it, it will release.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to come to terms with this, right? So you have to be in the present moment in order
Mm-hmm.
to answer that question, how am I feeling right now?
Right.
And once you're in the present moment, you can do something about it. So it's always that journey of noticing how you're feeling right now.
How often do you find that clients struggle to sit in that moment and sit with those feelings? As a kid, most of the time I feel like my parents were really responsive, and it was also, okay, come on, you're fine. Let's go. Let's move on and process all of that really quickly. So I found with my own clients and myself that sitting in that is difficult at times. How do you help your clients kind of process that difficulty?
Right. And I never could sit in it either, to begin with. But I happen to find the technique that's called EFT or
Mhm.
tapping. Have you heard of it?
I have.
Okay, so it's where we're tapping on certain places, specific places on our body as we're talking something through.
Mhm.
And it was so easy and so simple, and I did an experiment with it myself to find out what it was really going to do, and it was so mind-blowingly powerful in this one experiment I did that I thought, okay, this is the technique I'm going to use.
Uh-huh.
Because I don't have to sit in it, right? The tapping does the release for you. It releases the energy for you. So all you have to know are the points, and there's only 9 points, so it's easy enough to do.
Uh-huh.
And then you just talk through what it is you're experiencing right now, whether
Mhm.
it's an emotion or a thought or a memory, whatever it is. You just tap and you say it out loud, preferably,
Mhm.
and the energy around that releases from the body, and the body gives you feedback, which is really nice. So you'll start yawning, or you'll cry, or you'll do a deep sigh. Some people get really sleepy, and some people burp, which is an interesting one. That's just a few people do that.
Mhm.
But it's nice to get feedback from the body, so you know that the energy is leaving, and it's
Mhm.
gone at that point. So it's kind of a permanent solution. A lot of things people do are like impermanent, but this actually releases the energy from the body and allows it to disappear.
I love that. And it's also, really interesting to me to become more aware of energy work and mindset and manifestation and how you work through different stages of things, because I don't know as much about your childhood, but in my own childhood, it was, you're skeptical of things that don't make sense. You're skeptical of kind of the energy, or when somebody talks about um, maybe something that's not sciencey or logical. And I recognize that it took me a long time to recognize, okay, well, I've been doing whatever this is this way for so long, to then be open to EFT, to working through trauma, to energy work, and all of these things. when your clients come to you, are they kind of already there in the, okay, I've tried everything else, let's try this too? Or are they in the beginning processes and already kind of open to that?
It's a variety, but I think by the time they come to me, I'm so confident in the technique. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it looks really weird to begin with. It feels really woo woo. You know,
Uh-huh.
it is very strange, but I know the power of it. So I
Right.
think pretty easily they come to terms with that. And I
Mm-hmm.
was also, I mean, I was a software engineer. I have a
Right.
very logical mind. I want to know something works before I spend my time doing it. That's why
Right.
I tried it out, right? I tried it out with, it was my cat. I had a 17-year-old cat at home at the time. His kidneys were failing, and I had to give him a daily injection of saline solution. And
Mm-hmm.
I hated needles. And the first time I gave him that shot, my hand was just shaking
Uh-huh.
uncontrollably. And I was going to have to do this every day, and that was just too much. Right. So
Mhm.
if you're thinking in terms of what you have to do in business every day, that you don't
Right.
like doing, right? This would be
Uh-huh.
an example. And so I thought, well, let me try out this technique. So I
Mm-hmm.
tapped about every aspect of it, which is something you do with EFT. So I tapped about my hand shaking. I tapped
Mm-hmm.
about my fear of hurting the cat. And I tapped about all my memories from all the injections I had had in my childhood, which was a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And the next day, when I gave him that shot, the needle just slid right in. All that fear that had been living inside of me the day before had totally disappeared. So that's when I realized that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be on the other side of all that fear. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when I really started using it.
It's something that I need to do with my daughter. She's definitely afraid of needles too. So anytime it's, flu shot time or whatever, I mean, we start crying from the moment we leave the house. I'm like, this is so traumatic for her and so scary. So I'm glad that you brought that up because that's something that I can work on with her. When we chatted about having this interview, we talked about grief. How do you help your clients work through grief, whether it's recent or decades later that maybe they're still holding on to?
Right. And often, if we haven't done the relief work, the grief work in at the time, it lives inside of us. That
Mm-hmm.
was, other than my dad's anger issues, that was my big trauma, was finding my mother dead on the bathroom floor when I was 19. And I didn't realize I was still carrying, part of me knew that the tears were still just under the surface. I hadn't
Mm-hmm.
dealt with it. But most of me did not know that that's what was holding me back 20 years after the death. So we're not aware of it. So
Mm-hmm.
if you haven't done a lot, or if you haven't grieved after the death of someone, it's still inside of you. And it
Mm-hmm.
still will come out if you give it the opportunity to. So I work with people through the what happened with the death itself. What was the story? If you were there in person, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
If you just heard it in a phone call, what happened? How did that make you feel? I mean, we walk through it and we tap through it with EFT. The thing with EFT is you want to do it more than once, right? So
Right.
you tap through the whole experience, then you go back to the beginning and you tap through the whole thing again. And you keep doing that until there's no more emotion left.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that aspect of it, there's that death itself. Then there's all the memories that you've
Mm-hmm.
had from someone, right? Maybe there's regrets, maybe there's things
Mm-hmm.
you said to them that you wish you hadn't, or things you wish you had said to them. We
Mm-hmm.
work through all of that. And then there's the future, right? The fear of the future without them. We
Mm-hmm.
work through those experiences as well, or those thoughts, and come to peace, right? Once you have no emotion left around something like a loss, you're
Mm-hmm.
at peace with it. You don't forget what happened. You just don't have those sparks of emotion in you, which in my experience are actually attracting similar feelings into the future. So we
Uh-huh.
want to we want to come to peace with our past right now so that we're attracting peace into the future.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And you know, I I've had various people pass on in my own life, but also just watching family members and how they process grief or don't process grief. And just like you said, it's going to come out years down the road. And it's interesting to see kind of how different people have processed the same person passing and how even within the same family structure, people process things differently. if someone is feeling stuck in their grief or stuck in kind of the hamster wheel of life outside of EFT, what are you working with them on? What helps get them unstuck?
Well, that's a really good question because there's a subtlety to it. And what you need to do is find that stuckness and
Mhm.
accept, acknowledge, right, and feel the stuckness. Because if
Mhm.
you don't do that, you can't get beyond it. So
Okay.
sometimes we try and, again, we try and push through it or push it aside, but the stuckness is something in itself. It's energy in the body. Maybe it's fear of moving on or looking inside and finding the emotions that are in there.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what's beyond it, the stuckness itself is something that needs to be acknowledged and
Mhm.
released or felt enough that it will release itself. So that's,
I
yeah, go ahead.
no go ahead.
I've forgotten what I was going to say now.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna acknowledge that because even in my own life, the moment that any type of anxiety or negative emotion or anything starts up, the moment that you try and push it down and ignore it, it just gets bigger and the flame grows brighter. But to your point, as soon as you say, thank you, I acknowledge you, I hear you, everything starts to calm down, everything starts to release. And I think so often we're afraid of that. We're afraid if we acknowledge the elephant in the room that it'll be so much worse. So, how do you help your clients work through that fear? The fear of the fear almost, the fear of dealing with or opening Pandora's box.
Right. We work through that fear, right? Yeah, I mean, we'll tap through. I'm afraid of looking inside. I'm afraid of opening Pandora's box. And that's where totally accepting where we are right now. We're not trying to go any further because where we are right now, once it's been fully accepted, it
Mm-hmm.
will release. And the way I totally came to understand and know this to be true is when I was able to put my awareness inside my body and
Mm-hmm.
I could focus on tension. I could find tension versus no tension. And I would find tension. I would focus on it. I would just feel it, sense it. No thoughts involved, just sensations.
Mm-hmm.
And once I held my awareness on it for long enough, it would just relax and let go.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same process. It's the same process that I did all the way through, starting with EFT. And you're just finding how you feel right now, acknowledging it, feeling it, and that's when it releases. It's like a friend, right? If a friend has gone through some tumultuous time and they come to you and they want to share what they've gone through with you, if you try and tell them to, oh, suck it up or it
Uh-huh.
doesn't matter or move on, any of those things, right? There's going to be resistance from them. But
Right.
if you just listen to them and listen to them until they've said everything they need to say, they will relax and be able to move on with their life. It's just exactly the same thing, but we're doing it inside of us.
I love how you really kind of honed in on that because so often we will give others the best version of ourselves. We will give others the time, the listening ear, but won't stop to give that same grace to ourselves. So I love that you really pinpointed that because we do. If we can listen to ourselves and how we're feeling and be still, then we can work through all of that. Do you have any meditations or um, maybe other strategies for mindset work, not necessarily for trauma specific, but just to get used to being still, allowing your body to be present in the moment. For those of us that have a hard time sitting still.
Yeah, well, I find that asking the question multiple times a day, so maybe, setting a timer every hour,
Okay.
and when it goes off, how am I feeling right now? Because each
Okay.
time you do that, it has to bring you back into the present moment. You
Uh-huh.
have to go inside your body, notice how you're feeling, and then put a word to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So there's two aspects there. There's the going inside and sensing, and then there's putting a word to it. The putting a word to it is the thinking mind. The
Okay.
sensing mind, where the energy releases, is that going inside and noticing how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the healing happens. So that's the part that's most important. So if you do that many, many times a day, you are going to be able to focus more easily and more quickly inside in that feeling healing part.
Mhm.
But there's also journaling, right?
Right.
Journaling can work along the same lines. If you notice your thoughts, right? A lot of us just want to suppress our thoughts. We don't think we should be thinking that. We don't think we
Uh-huh.
should be hating anyone, right? We don't think we
Uh-huh.
should be doing whatever. We've been told as a child, you shouldn't do that, or you shouldn't
Right.
think that, right?
Right.
Don't think that. It's like,
Uh-huh.
but if
Like you
we
can
are,
stop your mind from thinking
right.
that thing.
But if you are thinking that, we want to notice it and
Hmm.
acknowledge it, right? And allow it to be there because it's coming up because there's energy underneath it.
Hmm.
And if we work with that energy, which can be feeling it or can be writing it out or can be tapping,
Hmm.
once we've done that enough, and this is the really weird thing, it was very surprising to me when it happened, those thoughts stop coming back up.
Hmm. Uh-huh.
I remember thinking I was in the kitchen, opening the kitchen door, and I just thought it feels like I'm living in a different reality because
Uh-huh.
all those judgmental and self critical thoughts that had been in my mind weren't there anymore. And I'd
Hmm.
never experienced that before. It was mind blowing.
And such a wonderful place to be because how many women, especially, never get out of that self-critical loop?
Yes.
That I mean, I know personally that space is such a wonderful place to be. And I know there's a lot of women out there who think, oh, that's not even possible. I could never not think that about myself. So I just want to have you guys here and today and really focus on the fact that that is possible for you as well. You
Right.
don't have to live in this world of self-sabotage and, critical thinking, um, you know, about yourself, not critical thinking, but
Right. So the key is to notice those thoughts, right?
right.
To realize I'm thinking I hate myself. I used to hate myself. It was a big part of who I was, and I worked on that for a long, long time until it came to the place. It's just three words, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
no emotion left anymore. But I
Mm-hmm.
had to come to the realization that I was thinking that thought. I hate myself. So
Mm-hmm.
it could be I'm not good at this, or I'm not worthy, or any of those thoughts. If you
Mm-hmm.
notice you're thinking them, pay attention to it, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
journal about it or tap about it or just feel it and
Mm-hmm.
just allow the energy to release.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you've written a book, A Pathway to Insight, and created a workbook to help your clients and everyone along this journey. Tell us about that.
Well, when I became able to put my awareness inside my body, I'd never heard anyone else talk about it before. And I knew there were several steps I went on this journey, and I wanted to write it all down while I remembered it because
Uh-huh.
I knew I was going to move further along the path, and I
Uh-huh.
didn't want to forget all the details of the journey because there are a lot of weird things that the body does when it's releasing tension at such a deep level. So I wanted to do that. And then the workbook was to help people who really want to go further, right? I I realized after I'd used EFT for a while and I started to become much more peaceful and it was really nice. I wanted things to go further and faster.
Mm-hmm.
So I started to do the work that I talk about in the workbook. And that's when things really shifted because I went through my whole past and released the energy around everything I could remember.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was an amazing journey. And it's just gone on since then. It's just slightly different now.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you talk about that journey because a lot of us too wake up and we're like, I don't want to feel like this anymore, and expect that a light switch is going to go off and everything's going to change. But it does take focused work to get there. And the journey really is the most important part. How much did you learn about yourself and what you are capable of along this path?
Wow, it was massive. I mean, one of the big things that I learned is it's not just mental because those thoughts are actually the energy around them is stored physically in our body. So we
Mm-hmm.
can't just change whatever you said, change a switch or
Right,
click a switch and change mentally because it's stored in our body. So it
right.
takes more work. And that's why I loved about EFT is it's actually working with the body, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
not just working on the mind, it's working on the body at the same time. It's got a
Mm-hmm.
um, somatic part to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's huge. We have no idea how much we're missing, right? When I started this journey, I didn't know any of this was available to us. I didn't
Right.
know there was this huge depth to life that I can experience now that
Hmm.
I didn't know existed before. I mean,
Hmm.
I never considered the fact that our head is the sound, the echo chamber for our voice.
Hmm.
So I can sing notes now that I couldn't sing before because I had so much tension, which I was not aware of in my skull. And I've
Right.
released so much that things have shifted. And that's why I'm taller than I ever was, because I've released the tension in my neck and my head, or releasing the burden. It's one and the same. As I release the burden, my neck released, and it can move in ways it couldn't move before, and I've grown as a result. So it's all connected. You can't just do one without the other.
Well, and as women, and with my background in physical therapy, we typically hold all of our tension, all of our stress, trauma in our neck and our upper back. I mean, that's just how it is. So the fact that you have not only x-rays, but true scientific evidence of I did this and this physically changed is really incredible.
Thank
So
you.
if I remember correctly, you have a retreat coming up in July. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, it's a retreat for any woman who has experienced a loss at any point in their life, right? Because I knew I hadn't dealt with mine for 20 years after the
Right,
event. So
right,
we're going to be doing this work. We're going to go through the death process, and the past experience we had with a person that we lost. And it could be a pet, it could be, it could be a divorce, it could be any kind of loss. But we will go
right.
through those three different aspects of it, and people will come out changed, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I like that you mentioned it's not just death. It could be divorce, it could be abandonment from childhood, it could be, I think that we lump loss a lot of times into someone passing and forget about the effect on the body if there's divorce, if there's some sort of traumatic abandonment in childhood or even later in life. So, and I was just reading a study recently about our connection to our pets. So that loss is significant as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I also want to make sure that our audience can find you. So, how can they follow you? How can they get in touch with you? I know that this is such a wonderful topic that a lot of our audience will want to go further on.
Okay, the three main ways. I have my website, annhince.com, just my name, and the x-rays are on there if you want to go and see the x-rays. I'm also pretty active on Facebook and YouTube. I've been posting some videos on YouTube recently. So those are the three main places.
Wonderful. Is there anything that you'd like to kind of close our talk with? Anything we haven't talked about? Any lasting thoughts?
Well, maybe just go back to the depth of life. I know a lot of people think this world is so negative, like this it's so hard to keep going, and we don't realize how much is available to us by doing this work. Like it changes your whole life. You become lighter. Life becomes much more fun, even though maybe nothing fun is happening, right? You're just
Right.
a lighter person, and it's
Mhm.
easier to laugh. It's just more pleasant to go through life. You can see why things are happening. You can
Mhm.
understand life more. So I really encourage people to do this work. It doesn't matter how much, just do enough so that you can see some change and realize the power of it, and then
Mhm.
maybe go ahead and do some more.
I love that. Go ahead and maybe do some more. We can all use a little extra. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was lovely having you.
Thank you. It was great being here.
As we close out today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Your next level is already within you. If you're feeling that pull for more clarity, more alignment, and more courage to step fully into who you're meant to be, this is your invitation to take the next step. Whether you're an entrepreneur ready to scale or a woman standing at the edge of something bigger, the path forward starts with trusting your desires, owning your worth, and leading with your inner knowing. This is exactly what I offer: private VIP coaching, and where I guide women inside the 10K Club and 50K Club through consulting with She Sells and Superhuman Selling to help you gain clarity, step into aligned action, and build a life and business that reflects your highest vision. If you're ready to explore what's next, let's have a conversation. Book a free call now at www.winnspace.com. corywinn.com/free call. I can't wait to connect with you. Talk soon.